Happy Monday. I almost said good morning. I don't see you guys in the morning. Sorry. Me and my weird humor. So today you should have watched a video from Crash Course Statistics about z-scores, and they also talk about percentiles. Your homework is going to focus on z-scores. So I'm going to go through a couple of examples to go over more directly how to find z-scores and how to find a score or an observation given the z-score. So really just working backwards. So in that crash course, you should have learned about how z-scores are a way for us to compare data that doesn't naturally seem comparable. So the example they focused on was comparing an ACT and an SAT score when they are on totally different scales. And down here we have our formula. This is one that you're gonna have to memorize. But I'm going to put the actual math notation. You don't have to memorize the words. But a z-score comes from the x that you're looking at minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. Or with our math notation, the z-score is equal to x being the observation that you're actually looking at minus x bar, the mean, divided by s sub x, the standard deviation. And I'm just going to put a little arrow. That's the observation you're interested in. Excuse me. So we're going to do a few examples of just using the formula, finding the z-score. And when you're asked to find z-scores, you're going to be given the average, the standard deviation, obviously, the observation, the one that you're finding the z-score for. Well, I was a dork, and I forgot to type in the average and the standard deviation into the notes. And if you remember how to do it in Google Sheets, it might be good practice for you, but we're working with this data up here. And like I said, if you remember how to find the average and standard deviation in Google Sheets, it's good practice for you. But the average, if we add them all together and divide by the total number of data points, is 80.05. And then the standard deviation comes out to about 8.642. And like I said, those will be given to you in the problem. Eventually, you'll have to find them on your own to find z-scores, but for today's homework, you're going to have them given to you. So we want to find the z-score for a score of 88 and then a score of 72. So I'm just going to draw a line so that I don't forget. So a z-score, we're looking at 88. The average, so we're taking away the average, is 80.05. And then we divide by standard deviation, which is 8.642. Oops, sorry. 88 minus 80.05 divided by 8.642, which gives us 0.9199. Well, I guess if I round, 0.920. And so what that tells us is that a score of 88 is 0.92 standard deviations above the mean. Then we do the same thing for a score of 72. 72 minus 80.05 divided by 8.642. 72 minus 80.05, not negative. Oops, sorry. Point equals divided by 8.642, and we get 0.932. Z equals negative, sorry. I said just 0.932, but there is a negative in front of it. 0.932. So a score of 72 is 0.932 standard deviations below the mean. And there's my explanation. Sorry, I forget that my head gets in the way. So we got a negative 0.932. So notice on this one, positive z-score means our score observation is above the mean. Negative z-score means that our score observation is below the mean. On this one, it says in 2012, the mean number of wins for teams in Major League Baseball was 81 and a standard deviation of 11.9. So average, standard deviation, and then we're going to find and interpret the z-scores for the New York Yankees, who had 95 wins, and then New York Mets with 74 wins. So we're going to take 95 minus 81, our average, divided by 11.9. Which gives us, oh, sorry, my lights turned off. 1.177 for our z-score. So the New York Yankees, total number of wins was 1.177 standard deviations above the mean. And then New York Mets, so we have 74 minus 81, 11.9. Which gives us a z-score of negative 0.588. Oops, my head's in the way again. So the New York Mets, with only 74 wins, was 0.588 standard deviations below the mean number of wins for the 2012 season. And then, like I said, we're going to go backwards. So this one says the Chicago Cubs were 0.672 standard deviations above the mean. How many games did they win? So I just put a reminder that our average was 81. And the standard deviation was 11.9. So this time we're working backwards. So remember, z-score is equal to the observation minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So we were given the z-score. This is the z-score right here. And we're asked to find the observation. So we have to use a little bit of our algebra skills. So 0.672, and it's positive because I'm above the mean, is equal to x, we don't know that one, minus 81 divided by 11.9. So the first step to solve for x is multiply both sides by 11.9. 11.9 times 0.672, which gives us 7.9968. And since that's not my final answer yet, I'm going to keep all of the decimal places, and that's equal to x minus 81 because those guys cancel out. And then I would add the 81 to both sides. 81, which would give us what, 88.9968 for x. Now obviously the Chicago Cubs could not have won 88.9968 games, and since 0.9968 would round up, we would say they had 89 wins. And then our last example, also working backwards, Toronto Blue Jays were 2.185 standard deviations below the mean. That means our z-score is negative. So we have negative 2.185, and that's equal to x minus 81 divided by 11.9. We're going to multiply both sides by 11.9.
Hey.
Hey.
You have a kid?
Just be quiet for a minute, please. All right, so when we multiply those, we get about negative 26. And those go away. And we have x minus 81. Then we're going to add 81 to both sides. And 81 plus negative 26 gives us 55. Sorry, glare is on what I typed in. There we go. But our answer is 55. So we get x equals 55. So the Toronto Blue Jays won 55 games in 2012.